So Nintendo has finally come out and talked about the pricing for Mario Kart World and the Nintendo Switch 2 and a couple other things as well. We're going to be going over here in this video. Lots of information. We got like 3 or 4 different articles to kind of go over. So if you do enjoy this kind of content, be sure to leave a like, subscribe for more. It really helps the channel. We're obviously completely Nintendo content on this channel, from news to walkthroughs and guides. You know, when actual games come out, you know, guides to things like that. You can just take a look at the channel. You can see a wide variety of Nintendo-based content. So if you're into that, stick around for more. If you dislike the content, let me know what you dislike so I can improve the content in the future. As you know, going into the next generation of Nintendo consoles, I would like to kind of, you know, take things up a step, you know, and kind of keep growing the channel, make it bigger and better than ever. So we got an article from IGN, which talks with Bill Trinen, who's been around Nintendo for quite some time. We just haven't seen his face in a while for some reason. We also have one from VGC, or sorry, not VGC, The Verge. We also have one by the Washington Post. The Verge and Washington Post, they're both of them are with Doug Bowser, the president of Nintendo of America. And then there's one from Polygon, which is completely separate. And if we have time, I'll include it. Basically, it's just about why music will likely never return to the Nintendo eShop. You know what? Let's start with that because it's extremely fast and it's a simple answer. So I'll just show you guys the article. Let's just jump into this. So essentially what they were kind of saying is, unlike back then in those Wii days, the Nintendo eShop now has a lot of videos that are showcasing the games. And so they basically don't want to intrude on that. And so, you know, he says, I asked in this interview, I asked this in an interview that took place after the same Switch 2 hardware developers did a long press conference and this and that. During that interview, you know, they basically had strong feelings about the eShop and whatnot. And you know, anyways, you know, all I have to say, it seems like the main reason is, you know, part of it is, you know, the videos they don't want to kind of intrude on. And then obviously also they want to make sure that the eShop is a smooth experience. That's their focus is performance, you know, and that the scrolling of the list doesn't stall, that it's very smooth, pages load fast and all that. Because of course, as we know, they didn't say this, but as we know, the eShop got a little bit laggy on the Switch over time. So that's just about the eShop. Okay. Thought we'd just knock that out. Boom. Okay. IGN. Mario Kart World specifically, and then also confirmation that the upgrades for Nintendo Switch 2 edition of games are going to cost $10. And why do they cost $10? And why do just all these different things, okay? Mario Kart 8 World, IGN goes in this whole thing. The interview that they did with Bill Trinen was on April 3rd, 2025. Bill Trinen, by the way, is it says it somewhere here. Okay, there it is. Nintendo of America's Vice President of Product and Player Experience. I wanted to get his title right and make sure that we got that. So again, if you've been around, you know, Nintendo content for a while, you've probably seen Bill Trinen. He's a very recognizable face because he's been around for quite some time, like Reggie was. Obviously Reggie's not around anymore. So anyways, the question is about Mario Kart 8, right? He says that he thinks that the price tag is justified. Why? I would say it's less about the strategy of pricing Mario Kart World. It's more just like whenever, you know, we look at a given game, we just look at what the experience is, what's the content, what's the value. Mario Kart World, I think, especially as you see from the Nintendo Direct, not to give you any hints or anything, but I did read your article this morning, IGN's article, and I think you had mentioned that you didn't find a lot to discover when roaming around. So I would say tune into our Mario Kart Direct to see what maybe you'll be able to find about that. Which, by the way, if you didn't know about that, Mario Kart World Direct, April 17th, so just in about 10 days from now at the time of recording this. And it is worth noting that, you know, as much as we've seen of this game, the fact that we're having a direct in just about a week and a half after the reveal of Mario Kart World and after the Treehouse Live gameplay and all that, tells us that there's probably a lot more to this game than we actually realize. So I personally would suggest to you guys, wait, like he says, wait at least till the Mario Kart World Direct to make your kind of conclusion on whether you think it's worth that price tag or not. Nobody likes the extra, you know, having to dish out extra money, but is it justified? Anyways, he goes on to say, this game is so big and so vast, you'll find so many little things in it to discover, and there's still some other secrets remaining that I think people, excuse me, will end up buying and playing the game, or as people end up buying and playing the game, they're going to find this is probably the richest Mario Kart experience they have ever had. I mean, it already looks like that. In all honesty, everything's connected. It's a massive open world. It already looks like that. And you know, you got to keep in mind, Tears of the Kingdom took that to another step, right? They kind of charged a little bit more for Tears of the Kingdom. It was the first game that I think Nintendo did that with, and look how massive that game was. So you can see probably Nintendo was thinking behind it and how they kind of evaluate the pricing and what, you know, the value is. And if they felt Tears of the Kingdom was justified and that game is huge, then, you know, Mario Kart World must be very, very big and a lot more than what we actually realize. So he was also asked about, you know, the $80 cost about some Nintendo Switch 2 edition games and the $10 upgrade and all that. So basically, this was what his response was. It echoed the Mario Kart World response, saying, well, again, what I would say is that we just look at each individual game and we look at the content and the value of that game, and then we say, what is the right price for the value of this entertainment? He says, what I would probably counter to some of that is that really what you're looking at is for the Nintendo Switch 2 edition, that's the physical price for somebody that has not bought the base game. For somebody who has bought Tears of the Kingdom or Breath of the Wild, the upgrade packs for those are $9.99, $10 USD, right? Which is probably like 12 or 13 bucks Canadian if you're Canadian. And if you happen to be a Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack member, both of the Zelda upgrades are inclusive with that within that membership, so there's no additional charge for those. So I'm really glad that they are including those in you know, the Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack membership. They did the same thing with what was the booster course pack with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, so that's really good. He says, but I think overall our general approach is really just focus on what's the content and what's the value and what's an appropriate price based on that. Now, we're going to go into, of course, more from Doug Bowser in a couple different articles in a second. But, you know, there's a lot here. There's a lot here to kind of go over really quick. So, like he said, I would wait until the Mario Kart World Direct to kind of make a conclusion. Is this worth it? Is it not worth it? You know, as of right now, people are going to still say, well, it's not worth it. I don't care what's in this game. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Like, I don't like it. We got to differentiate, right? There's a difference between not liking a price hike and preferring obviously a lower price point, which I think we would all agree on. And then, you know, just like unbiasedly kind of and just reasonably looking at something and being like, yeah, okay, this is worth, you know, the value is there, or it's not. And again, to some extent, that is obviously very subjective. You know, for some people, it's not going to be justified. And I get that, you know, I get that. So there's all of this, right? So as for the current price tag of the $450 for the Nintendo Switch 2 itself, Trinen mentioned a little bit about that as well, but then Doug Bowser also talked about that in a couple different articles. Also, obviously the cost of everything it goes up over time, and I personally would love if the cost of things didn't go up over time, is basically what Bill Trinen says. So, you know, he's echoing what everybody, you know, all of us would think as well, right? But I think, you know, anytime you're building a new system that's got new features, new tech, there's costs associated with that, right? That's understandable, I guess, right? So again, you know, what we look at is the experience of the Nintendo Switch. What's the experience of the Nintendo Switch 2? What are the new features it offers? Certainly, there's the cost of goods and things that factor into it, but we try to find the right appropriate price for a product based on that. You know, a lot of people will say like, oh, Nintendo's greedy. Nintendo's just kind of like overcharging, blah, blah. I really don't think that's it, man. Nintendo has not really been known for being a greedy company, right? They've been known for, I mean, you go back to the days where, you know, Iwata-san was kind of the lead and he was the president of Nintendo, and he took a pay cut just so that he wouldn't have to lay off any employees. This is just how Nintendo has been. It's just they, you know, I don't think that they're purposely trying to charge the most that they can get out of this, but there is a lot of tech in this that's very pricey. If you look at other consoles that offer like 4K capabilities, especially you get them into 60 FPS, even 120 FPS, HDR, you know, the variable refresh rate. There's a lot of technology in here that you know, to kind of create that technology could be pricey, you know, for the most part. And yeah, there's just a lot going on in here that I just don't know if we realize. Same thing if we go to The Verge, right? Nintendo says the tariffs, by the way, are not the reason for the Nintendo Switch 2 costing $450. And this is what Nintendo of America's president, Doug Bowser, goes on to say, which we haven't really heard from him, I think, in about like a year and a half, I believe, I think, but I don't know. I don't remember. But anyways, basically he says right here, any previous tariffs were not factored into the price itself. He explains this the day after the event, which is worth noting. So he goes on to say down here, where is it here? So basically, there's currently no pre-order date. As we know, this is not what Doug Bowser says. This is what The Verge is saying. Doug Bowser says the news is fresh regarding the tariffs that just got implemented. And like many other companies right now, we are actively assessing what the impact may be. So in terms of the actual tariffs that have been implemented, they're assessing it. It's fresh for all these different companies. And I want to say real quick, this is not exclusive to like Nintendo. This is something that's going to affect every single company. I mean, like other gaming companies, PlayStation, Xbox, other companies in general that are even outside the gaming sphere, other entertainment companies, whatever it is. This is not something just for Nintendo. So we need to also be clear about that and not get like some tunnel vision like this is a Nintendo thing. Like, no, this is going to be affecting a bunch of different companies, depending how obviously everything plays out in the coming days with the tariffs and all that. But anyways, in terms of why is the Switch 2 so expensive, when he asked Doug Bowser basically rattled off a list of new console features, right? The bigger LCD screen, right? Which it's worth mentioning. The more powerful internals, the Joy-Con controllers that have been enlarged and redesigned for durability. There's a lot going into this, right? The game chat social layer built into the console itself, right? Excuse me. We have a microphone built in now as well, which is, you know, it might be marginal, but it is an additional cost. We want to make sure that this is a device that is approachable, that consumers will see as part of their overall entertainment experiences, and will understand that it has longevity to it. And all of those factors really go into the consideration of the price. There's more I want to talk about here, but it is worth noting. Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking about like the Asus ROG Ally, not the ROG Ally X, but the normal one, the first one that came out, right? That's priced about, I think it was like $400 or $500 USD, if I remember correctly. And that's just one example of something that's priced around the same range. I've tried the Asus ROG Ally, the normal one, and the X, and I would say that the ROG Ally, it also has garbage battery life. You know, the Switch 2 can do like 2 to 6 hours depending. The ROG Ally, I mean, you're lucky to get 2 hours. I mean, it's probably close. It's probably more like 2 to 4 hours for the ROG Ally. But anyways, none of that, or all that aside, you know, that's something we can maybe go a little deeper into another video, because this video is already getting very long. He goes on to basically say, talking about the Switch 2 price tag, puts it in a premium spot for Nintendo's lineup. This is The Verge talking about this. You know, there's going to be, of course, still the three models of the Switch: the base unit, OLED, the Switch Lite for this foreseeable future. Bowser gave an unclear response when asked if the existing Switch devices, which tops at $349, had an impact on the decision to charge $449, right, for the Switch 2. Because if you're looking at it as a whole ecosystem, then it'd be like, okay, well, our most expensive Switch 1 is $349, so what's the next, you know, kind of iteration of that? $100 more maybe, but he doesn't really say that. He goes on to say, you want to consider the pricing relative to the Switch since we have that in distribution, but really the consideration is driven more of what is a part of this particular gaming experience, excuse me, versus what it is relative to the Switch 1, basically. So Bowser says that each game we believe is a unique experience, and so thus prices can vary accordingly. Which again, we've seen there's a massive, like, wide spectrum of prices, right? Donkey Kong Bonanza is $10 cheaper than the Mario Kart World, and you got other games that are even cheaper. And I mean, it really, really depends. And then, you know, Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour, a game that teaches players about the Switch 2, offers tech demos, right? There's mini games, everything like that. It ended up being a paid game instead of a free pack in title like Wii Sports was, or Astro's Playroom on the PS5. He says, as this game was being developed, what's been packed into it is a depth of minigame experiences. And listen, to his credit, he's right. If you guys seen any of the gameplay from Treehouse Live and whatnot, I mean, it's very deep. There's a bunch of medals to kind of collect. You know, there's a whole experience. This isn't just like an interactive, like, Nintendo Switch 2 user manual. This is a lot deeper than that. So he says, you know, they're very deep, they're very repeatable. And so we looked at the depth of play experience and opportunity. We felt that $9.99 was a fair price to ask for that. So that's your confirmation, by the way, that it is $10 USD. Doing the conversion from, you know, yen to USD was about $6 or $7, but rounding it up, obviously, for the, you know, the US economy and whatever, $10 was what I was, you know, assuming it would be. So we have a confirmation as $10. And look, let me give you guys a couple different thoughts really quick before we close out this video, because it's already getting very long. In terms of this price tag for the Nintendo Switch, or Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour, that's one thing that I personally think is like, it's fair. Look, people put a lot of work and effort into this. I think it is a lot deeper than most people realize. People are looking at it more like it's just like, you know, it's just a surface level game. People are looking at it, yeah, but Wii Sports was free. Yeah, because Reggie like really pushed hard for that. Miyamoto didn't want to do that at first because Nintendo, you know, especially the Japanese culture, they believe that people should be paid for their work, which is reasonable. There's nothing unfair about that premise, right? Is people should be paid for their work, right? And that's why Wii Sports was not free in Japan. It was actually it was separate. It was paid, and Nintendo's never done that again. Now, if a company decides to eat the cost, they can do that. But I don't think it's fair for us as the consumer to be like, oh, it's unreasonable that they're charging $10 for this game. Now, is that value worth it to you? That's subjective. You may be like, it's not worth it for you. And of course, we all love free games. I would love if it was free, okay? If it's free, it's for me. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on. But I think if we're being reasonable, $10 for this, which it does seem like there's a lot of mini games, and they look really fun. I mean, in my personal opinion, this is subjective. They look really fun. So that's that. Mario Kart World. Again, we wait till the Nintendo Direct for Mario Kart World to see what is this game really offering. We've already seen quite a bit, and it's already a massive experience. And I already think that, you know, as Bill Trinen says, it does seem like the richest Mario Kart experience we have ever had. Everything's interconnected. It's a massive open world. You could drive in between tracks, outside of the tracks, the out of bound areas. You can drive in free roam. You know, all of the Grand Prix, the way they work is like the next race, part of the next race is driving from the first track to the second track, which is a whole new experience. There's a ton of characters, there's a ton of costumes, tons of unlockables. He's saying there's a lot more to it. There's modes we probably don't even know about. There's the brand new mode Knockout Tour. Like I said, there's probably more modes that we don't know about. We're talking like, is there battle mode in here? Lots of different stuff that we don't know. That so I would just say, like, I think after the Nintendo Direct, that would be the time where we can make a better conclusion individually, subjectively, each person, and say, yeah, okay, I can understand why this is worth that price tag. Doesn't mean we have to like it. I don't like it, and I would still prefer that they didn't do that. They didn't go the route of charging an extra $10. But at the same time, you know, people pointed out as well, it's like if you look at what games used to cost, and then the inflation rate and what games should cost now, games should actually be like $120 USD. So on one hand, it's like we should also count our blessings that, like, you know, games have not increased as much as they could have or even should have over the years. But at the same time, you know, I don't like it as much as the next person. You know, obviously we're not rich people in a sense. You know, it's like the economy's rough as well. So there's a lot going into this. There's just a lot of factors. I was also going to show you guys the Washington Post article, but then I realized that I actually can't because it's Washington Post. They have everything locked down under a subscription model. The Washington Post, basically just echoing what The Verge said. So not really much more to add to that. Guys, what do you think about all this in comments? Let me know in the comment section below. Again, obviously, if you enjoy the Nintendo content, leave a like, subscribe for more, and all that good stuff. But, you know, I'm not saying you like the news, but, you know, let's try to be reasonable. Let's try to approach this like unbiasedly, reasonable, and think about this. Yeah, we could think about this. Oh, they're a corporation. You know, they just want to make money. Sure, I get that. And we could also think that, like, you know, I don't like this. I don't want to pay more money. Who does? But, like, let's try to be unbiased. Let's try to be reasonable about this, right? Like, what do you think, honestly, when you factor in all of these different variables? Does it make sense to you? Do you still think all of this is overpriced? Again, I'm not asking if you like it. I don't think anybody likes that things are costing more. That's just a given. But do you think that it's unfairly priced? Mario Kart World, Nintendo Switch Tour, the upgrade packs being $10, which assumingly the ones for Kirby and also Mario Party are assumingly like $20 because they are actually DLCs as well. We don't know that. I don't think we know that for sure. Doing the yen conversion, it's about $20. It's like 2,000 yen. But yeah, and then the Switch 2 pricing. What do you think of it all? Let me know in the comments below. Sorry that this video is super long. There's a lot of articles to kind of go through, and I wanted to give you guys as much thorough information as possible. And I hope you guys stick around for more, and I hope to see you guys soon in another one. Tell them, friends, game on. Thanks for watching. And Mario Kart World Tour, Mario Kart World Nintendo Direct, April 17th. hopefully we'll see a lot more that better kind of justifies the price. I don't know. We'll see. Till the next one. Game on. Catch you guys later.